Hi guys, I'm catching up on reading excerpts from the books I wrote when I was sick. Now I'll read you an excerpt from week 23 of Author vs. AI called The Red King of Chinatown. Here's part of chapter 1. Auntie Katie's thrown my itinerary into the garbage and dumped a whole bunch of coffee grounds over it, and I suppose she wants me to thank her for it. But all I really want to do is growl at her for ruining my weeks of hard work doing research for my trip here to New York City. In a few moments, she's made a mess of all my plans. "You're young, Rebecca. Be young," she tells me as she hands me a cup of coffee to go with her unwelcome action. I stare into the kitchen garbage, wondering if I can take out the papers and wipe them off, perhaps hang them up to dry. I was determined I wasn't going to bring work with me, so I didn't bring my laptop on this trip. Granted, I can do most things from my phone still, but I take her point, along with the coffee cup. She passes over the milk and sugar, and I add generous amounts of each before sitting down at her small kitchen table. She wrinkles her nose over her black cup of coffee at my choices, and I wrinkle my nose back at her. Then we both laugh. Auntie Katie's almost like a second mom to me. She's my mom's best friend, not really my aunt, and they grew up together. I've seen her almost every holiday back home in Waltham, Massachusetts, which is sort of the farthest western town sucked into the urban sprawl of Boston. After her husband died in a tragic car accident when I was 14, she decided she needed a change of scenery and moved to New York to be closer to her sister. 10 years later, and I'm visiting her for the first time. And I'm nervous as hell. Boston might be a big city, but it's chump change compared to New York. After a few necessary sips of my steaming hot coffee to get my brain cells moving, I finally appeal to her. "Okay, what should I do then? You're almost a New Yorker at this point. Where to go on day one of my vacay?" "Well," she taps her chin with one finger, "the tourist route might be fun, but it's pricey." I have a budget, so I don't disagree. It took me a year and a half at my first job out of college to save up enough for this trip, so I'm not into spending excessive amounts of money. "So no helicopter tours then?" I tease her with a smile. She chuckles. "Not unless you won the Powerball when I wasn't looking." She tilts her head. "Do you still like playing pool?" I grew up with a pool table in my parents' basement. It's one of the few things that I've kept up. That and playing violin. My mom keeps bugging me to try out for one of those amateur orchestras in Boston, but I prefer to play alone. I don't need an audience, and I'm not good enough to make it in the big leagues. But pool? Oh, yeah. Katie and I always play every holiday. It's sort of our tradition. "Know of any good places?" I ask. "Well, there are various pool halls around the city, and a number of bars have tables, but there's a good one in Chinatown called Jungle 8. Not surprising that Katie would know of it, since she lives not too far away in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I check out their address on my phone. I could probably walk there from her apartment. Good to know, I tell her. And Chinatown's a fun place to explore too. You can go shopping, get some souvenirs to take home for your family, and there's also some underrated places to see. For example, you could do a Tai Chi class at Roosevelt Park, grab some dim sum at one of the restaurants, and stop by the fire station where Ghostbusters was filmed. All in one day." "Oh, really?" I sit up in my chair. Wow, that sounds so much better than what I had planned. And it does. Most of my plans were to stop at the so-called tourist traps. But as Katie noted, most of them are expensive. I could take Katie out to dinner for the same price as going to the top of the Empire State Building. And that was just for one ticket. "Here, let me text you." Katie whips out her phone and sends me a few links to all the things she's mentioned. "I've got to get to work, but I can meet you for dinner at 8. What do you say?" I stand up when she does so I can give her a hug. I feel almost like a kid again, being told what to do, but in a good way. I obviously had no clue. Thanks, Katie. I'll see you tonight. Now, I'll skip ahead a bit to the fun stuff. Rebecca's wandered around the city a bit and caught some sights, and now she goes to the bar that Katie recommended to her. So here we go. Behind the bar are two women about my age who seem to be wearing a uniform that consists of a black miniskirt and button-up black shirt. They're balanced out by two men who are wearing a similar outfit, black jeans and a black button-up shirt. What I didn't expect? The bar is 3 deep, with people ordering drinks. There's music playing, but it's hard to hear. There's a mass of conversation, laughter, and the clink of cups and other dishware. This place is hopping. My eyes scan over the crowd. It'll probably take me too long to order a drink and play a game of pool. I can see there are chalkboard lists at the back that are filled up with names. Strange for 7 o'clock on a weeknight. But then again, I don't know what's strange or not in this city. The city that never sleeps, right? But as I'm about to turn and go, my eyes roam over a table and pause. This table shouldn't stand out in this chaotic mess of people, but for some reason it does. Or rather, the people do. They're dressed similarly to the waitstaff. Most are wearing all black. There are 4 men and 2 women, and they all appear fairly young. Perhaps a little bit older than me, but not by much. Except for 1 man. He looks older than the rest, but I'm not sure why I think that. His face doesn't have the wrinkles of the Tai Chi crowd, or even white hair mixed amongst the deep blue-black of his locks. He looks thin, but not emaciated thin of some men who can't seem to gain weight, but rather the whipcord leanness of someone who is unafraid of hard labor. Definitely not a gym bro. He's not built enough for that. Amongst all the drab black, he's wearing a bright red shirt and an impeccably tailored pinstripe suit. No tie, but he doesn't need one. The top button of his suit is undone and is just the right amount of formal and casual to accentuate his strong features. He looks like he could have stepped from the pages of any fashion magazine, although it's not really his features. But just as he seems older, he seems to have a gravity about him that I can't look away from. Perhaps he senses my gaze because he looks up in my moment of hesitation as I stand in the doorway about to leave. His eyes are some dark shade that I can't tell across the length of the room, probably black or dark brown like mine. I would assume he's Chinese or Chinese American like me. His eyes hold mine, and his lips curve up slightly in a smile. I don't want to smile back, but there's something electrifying about his presence. Something I've never felt before in my sleepy little town of Waltham. A presence that holds me. Then all of a sudden it's over. He looks at the woman seated to his right and laughs at something she says. I blink and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My heart racing, I push open the door and escape into the night. I take a deep breath of the air outside and it feels cleaner somehow than what I was just breathing in the bar. Fresher and freer, as if I just escaped from drowning. As you can see, there's a lot of excitement to come in this book. Without knowing it, Rebecca's seen Jun for the first time and he's seen her. What will happen next between them? Tomorrow I'll let you know about week 24's book and read a short excerpt from it too. Until then, have a great day.